All right, tomorrow morning, this time tomorrow, doors will be open for a hero's breakfast at Scramblers. That'll be free breakfast for those of you that are veterans. And that is thanks to a collaboration with some of our dear friends, Scramblers, of course, Delta Roofing, Air Services, Heating, Cooling, Plumbing, Electrical, and Warrior's Journey, brand new partner with us on that, and long-term partnership we've been working on for some time with those great folks over there. And speaking of veterans and military, the media continues to try and attack former President Donald Trump for being there for Gold Star families. It's obvious why this is. The media desperately wants America to forget about what the Biden-Harris administration did to our credibility and to our own service members as well as our allies across the world just over 3 years ago. They are desperately doing everything they can to blame it on Donald Trump, claim that they had no choice whatsoever. There is this great contradiction between Joe Biden in charge and Kamala Harris. I was the last person in the room when these decisions were made to, we had no decision-making power whatsoever. It was out of our hands. Donald Trump made us do it. You can't really have it both ways unless you are the media and the Democrat Party. Then, of course, you can't have it both ways. You just put it out there. You get both versions. There's a little something for everyone. Then you had a complete lack of any presence or even acknowledgement from the president or Kamala Harris to the Gold Star families on that day. They had reached out to former President Donald Trump requesting that his presence be there. This is all... It's not good narrative for the media. It's not good narrative for the Harris campaign because they want us to forget those deaths. They want us Biden himself claiming just a couple months ago that none of them actually died. Not a single one died. No one has ever died on his watch. First president in this century to never have any service member lose their life while serving the country. Refused to say their names, refused to meet with the family members. You juxtapose that to the media's lionizing Cindy Sheehan. Cindy Sheehan was a mom who lost her son in Iraq and at one point met with then President George Bush. And it was at a time when she was relatively supportive of the efforts, but over time she became more adopting of the left-wing causes and became an anti-war activist and demanded to meet with Bush again. More in the political context. Bush had already met with her, and so he wasn't going to do it. So she began camping outside his Texas home, camping outside anywhere he was until he would meet with her again. And the media turned her into a celebrity. There wasn't an American who did not know at the time the name Cindy Sheehan. She was a symbol of the arrogance of the administration. She was symbolic of how Bush really didn't care. Why doesn't he just meet with her? That was the question. Over and over and over again. Why not just meet with her? Of course, all the time, pretending as if he hadn't already met with her, which he did. Cindy Sheehan would get so much media attention that followers and groupies began to sit with her and protest with her. Code Pink was the name of the organization. And she would be very prevalent until Bush was out of office. Now, she continued her protest, but the media lost interest in her at that point because then she was left protesting Nancy Pelosi and, people that weren't George Bush. And, of course, Cindy Sheehan wasn't the point for the media. The point was George Bush. You look at the hyper-focus that the media put on Cindy Sheehan, but these Gold Star families totally ignore them. No question, no demanding from anyone in the Biden administration to explain why they won't meet with them, why they won't even call them, why they won't even say their names. Why this president claimed that none of them even actually died. Nothing. But, of course, because it isn't and it never is about the issue, it's about how can the issue be used. So, of course, what do they try to do? Let's see, how can we use these Gold Star? We got to make Trump look bad. They come up with these stories that, well, Trump's people about got into a fist fight at the cemetery because he shouldn't have been there politicizing this, and they were so desperate to politicize this, they just about got into a fist fight. Of course, not only is there no evidence of that, but the Trump circle says, we have footage of what happened. You want us to release it? Well, if you're going to continue to push this lie, we'll be more than happy to release footage. Not to mention the Gold Star families themselves, who it turns out invited him. And it turns out the government did about everything they possibly could to prevent them from having their requests fulfilled. These are Gold Star families. Not only is this an administration that ignores them, but then when they have a simple request because they can get no sympathy from Biden, no sympathy from Harris, they reach out for Trump, and the government tries to step in and prevent them from having that. We'll have the latest details on that story coming up. 7 o'clock hour, Christy Fulnecki. We have Author of the Week as well, sponsored by ABC Books. That will be in the 8 o'clock hour. Now the latest news update.
And the first alert forecast from Colorton, Fox 49 meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by Wolfpack Cleaners, your residential and commercial cleaning professionals. Today it's going to be sunny and hot with a high near 94. Tonight mostly clear with a low around 72. For your Friday, an 80% chance of showers after 1 p.m. with a high near 88. And on Saturday, we do have a 50% chance of showers and thunderstorms, and then mostly cloudy with a high near 81.
Tomorrow being Friday, you will also, if you have the KSGF app, get that notification about whatever great deal Godfather's Pizza is going to have for you from their 4 area store locations, Nixa, Battlefield, Ozark, and Springfield. They do deliver. Sometimes that is the deal, free delivery. Sometimes it's special pricing or free dessert pizza. You can also register to win free pizza party from Godfather's at ksgf.com. And nothing goes better with pizza than beer or more pizza. But beer as well. And if you happen to, before the season's up, find yourself at Hammons Field, be sure to check out some of the Kansas Territory Brewing Company beer, Bradford Lights, Pineapple Life Coach. You can get it right now exclusively. That is where I think maybe even Missouri. I could be wrong about that. But I know in the Springfield area, they are breaking into the market from Washington, Kansas. You can go to their site, learn a little history about the company itself and what's behind the decision to get into the craft brewing industry. You will start seeing billboards around in the area, hopefully in stores soon. So just remember the name Kansas Territory Brewing Company. You can check out their site at kansasterritorybrewco.com. We no longer, it's been some time, as perhaps goes without saying, have media in the context of these collective networks that compete in order to be the best at providing you information about what's going on so that you as an individual with your different backgrounds, different perspectives, all of us can then take that information, straightforward information, and from that determine our perspectives on things, our opinions on things. Their campaign apparatus for the Democrats, for the Harris campaign. They are always an apparatus for the Democrats. They were the apparatus for the Biden campaign. That is why not even months ago they were encouraging him to drop Kamala Harris from the ticket because she was the weak one of the two. Think about that for a moment. I remember on numerous occasions saying, boy, that's got to be a real kick in the teeth to be Kamala Harris and to be described as the weak link in the Biden-Harris team. Incidentally, accurate or inaccurate, it worked because Kamala Harris's poll numbers, just think about what an impact the media has on a segment of the population. Her poll numbers showed her the least popular vice president in the history of taking those polls. The least popular. Miserable failure. I mean, you think about how some of the vice presidents were. You're talking about people like Dick Cheney, Dan Quayle, individuals that the media, basically any Republican vice president, just would run through the ringer, would mock, would attack, would demonize. Kamala Harris's poll numbers were worse than theirs. And when you had the media out there presenting her as a total failure and out there openly saying that the reason if Biden wants to win against Trump, he has to drop her, to where now she polls ahead of Trump in some states. There's only one reason for that. It's the media. It's certainly not because she has come out on the stage and proven to be this articulate individual that's willing to sit down and take on any interviewer, any place, at any time, willing to debate anyone at any time, will stop anywhere in front of the cameras and the microphones and take questions. It certainly isn't because she has articulated a vision for this country with specific policy initiatives that people have thought, oh, yeah, that's nice. And it certainly isn't because she is something new from what the country has been getting over the last 4 years. She's been part of this administration. So what does that leave? That leaves the media. The media is responsible for where she is today. They have put her there. And on the flip side, of course, they do everything they can in order to demonize Donald Trump, even when he's doing, it's like, you realize there is absolutely nothing whatsoever this guy can do that they would ever give him credit for. Nothing. Nothing. Here you had Gold Star families. They reached out. They asked if Trump could be part or would be part of a ceremony with them, laying of the wreath, Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. Now, there's something that should be known about this that a lot of people don't know, which is understandable. A lot of people think that the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, when there comes to a laying of the wreath, it's always just a president. And so this is politicized because Trump isn't president any longer, and he's running for president, so he did this. Now, it's understandable that people believe that because whenever you see on television there's some sort of news story in that capacity, it's the president doing it. But people do this all the time. They are allowed to participate in a laying of the wreath. Sometimes it's kids. Sometimes it's family members of those who have served. Sometimes it's those who have served. This isn't something that is massively unusual to occur. It's not something that is reserved for presidents until Trump came along and wedged himself in. This is something that the families were going to be doing, and they wanted Trump to be part of it. But of course, because it's Donald Trump, the government tries to stop it from happening. Because the Gold Star families, what do they care about them? They don't care. As far as the Biden administration is concerned and Kamala Harris's campaign is concerned, they're just a bunch of whiny people that won't shut up and are causing them trouble as they try to save democracy. They're a bunch of Trumpsters, a bunch of MAGA hat-wearing individuals. According to the Daily Caller, Speaker of the House Mike Johnson had to intervene in order to get former President Donald Trump into Arlington Cemetery for the 3rd anniversary of the Afghanistan withdrawal with the Gold Star families. The Gold Star families, who lost their children during the Biden administration's withdrawal from Afghanistan, asked Trump to join them at Arlington National Cemetery. There, he laid a wreath for the 13 service members who were killed serving their country in Afghanistan. However, one Gold Star family told the Daily Caller that Arlington National Cemetery was trying to make it difficult for the former president to even appear for the ceremony to honor their children, something that the families were wanting. Arlington National Cemetery told the Gold Star families that they could only be there for a specific time that did not work for everyone's schedule, and were also told the president could not join them at their children's gravesite. These are families that this is a cemetery that is supposed to be about those who gave their lives for this country. Well, unless, of course, it might look good for Trump. Chairman of the House Foreign Affairs Committee, Representative Michael McCall, explained to the caller that he was contacted by Gold Star parents Darren Hoover and Kelly Barnett, the parents of Taylor Hoover, who told him that Arlington Cemetery was giving them and some of the other parents and the U.S. service members killed at Abbey Gate a hard time about coordinating a ceremony with Trump on the anniversary of their deaths. The caller is told that the cemetery said that they could only be there for a specific time, and of course it wasn't working for everyone's schedule. They were not being accommodating in any way, shape, or form, and that Trump could not join them at their children's grave sites. Which I don't even know exactly how that works, because if you've ever been to Arlington, and I've been there on numerous occasions, you are able to walk around. It's not as if there are areas, like you have to have some sort of guided tour through it necessarily. So I don't, unless something has changed to where it is not open to the public, people are not allowed without permission to, walk the paths. And I don't know, maybe these things have changed. But we're talking about a former president of the United States at the request of family members who are being told, if you want the former president to be there, it ain't going to happen. Sorry. So eventually, you had some of these Republican lawmakers step in to make it happen. How sick are these people? And then the media out there, instead of talking about this, just reporting what happened, they report on sources claiming that, somebody from Trump's camp got into a physical altercation with people at Arlington Cemetery because they were so desperate in order to get some sort of photo op out of this. That's what they focus on. You have a lot of people involved in this. You got Trump himself. You got folks that are part of the government and the Biden administration. You've got members of Congress. You have people from Trump world that are obviously the ones that whenever the Gold Star families reached out, they're the ones that on Trump's side tried to figure out how to make this happen for the Gold Star families. You've got a lot of people involved. A lot of discussion about this in the media. But isn't it amazing that the one grouping of people that the media seems to not have any interest in talking with are the members of the family, are these family members, the ones who made the request? Isn't that interesting? There's all this talk about, should Trump have been there? Should he not have been there? Was it appropriate for him to have been there? Is this just politicizing it? They don't seem to have any interest whatsoever in the family members, in seeing what it is that they wanted, asking them, because after all, should that not be what this is about? Isn't that what this was about? Apparently not. I mean, it just goes to show you that the folks in the government currently today, at least under this administration, who run a lot of these shows, it really has nothing whatsoever to do with any sort of reverence for those who served or the family members. Oh, they love to talk, a big talk about the family members and so forth. But when it really comes down to it, if they can't capitalize off of it, then it is of no interest to them whatsoever. And certainly if somebody else might capitalize off, I mean, my God, Donald Trump may look presidential, or people may get this idea that service members and their families have some sort of respect and love for Donald Trump. We can't have that. So let's just ignore the families, because this, after all, isn't about them. These people are deeply sick. Springfield's Talk 1041. I'm Nick Reed. Tomorrow morning, many of you, as we are broadcasting live from Scramblers, will be joining us for breakfast. Some of you free breakfast if you're a veteran. Between 6A and 9A tomorrow morning. Warrior's Journey. Incredible, incredible organization. Helping make that possible along with our friends at Delta Roofing and Air Services, Heating, Cooling, Plumbing, Electrical, and of course, Scramblers. Traffic update, I'm Nick Reed.
Springfield's Talk 1041, your first alert forecast from Color 10 Fox 49 meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by St. Clair the Ozarks Home Improvements. Today it'll be sunny and hot with a high near 94. Tonight mostly clear with a low around 72. For Friday we have an 80% chance of showers after 1 p.m. with a high near 88. And on Saturday we have a 50% chance of showers and thunderstorms, and then mostly cloudy with a high near 81.
Pyramid Roofing Company talk and text line. Biden met with the 13 service member families that were flown back from Afghanistan and caught. We all remember this. And the texter noted that he constantly checked his watch. The families didn't forget that. And of course, the media doesn't talk about that. In fact, on MSNBC, you have one of their lead hosts, Jen Psaki, who falsely wrote in her book that he didn't look at his watch at all. She had to apologize when I guess she didn't think that the media would listen to the Gold Star families and their outrage. The text goes on to note that one of the Gold Star family fathers said that Joe made it all about his son, Bo. Well, of course he did. There's a quote from, this was Mike Barnacle on Morning Joe, MSNBC. And of course, their outrage isn't about what those families are going through. It's about the fact that Donald Trump was there. This is how sick and obsessed they are. Can you imagine that? You think of the horrors of what occurred in Afghanistan. You think about what these families have been going through. MSNBC, what really riles them up, though, is Donald Trump was there. At their request. Mike Barnacle on Morning Joe said of Trump being there, quote, "It's terribly upsetting, obviously, to people who buried loved ones in Arlington National Cemetery." Well, that's really an interesting perspective, given that the Gold Star family members who buried their children in Arlington Cemetery were the ones who requested him to be there. So it's not really that obvious, is it? This is what is pathetically one-dimensional about these people on this campaign network for Harris. Is that they're standing in the pouring rain talking about sunshine. To, with a straight face, characterize family members who have buried their loved ones at Arlington Cemetery at being outraged at Trump being there when the only reason he was there was because families who buried their loved ones there wanted him to be there. There's an Army vet by the name of Lucas O'Hara. And he weighed in on this, noting that in terms of the family members and Trump's involvement at their request, quote, "I've been working on this project for the last 6 months with the Abbey Gate Foundation that will be presented on their behalf in the next few weeks. Because of that, yesterday I had the honor to attend the wreath-laying ceremony remembering the 13 soldiers who gave the ultimate sacrifice serving their country during the collapse of Afghanistan and the bombing at Abbey Gate 3 years ago. During the ceremony, I got to witness something that, I'll be quite honest, was pretty unbelievable to see in person. No matter who the politician, there always seems to be an angle when they do things to make it beneficial. Yesterday, though, that was not the case. I have witnessed over 75 wreath-laying ceremonies performed by politicians and conducted 524 funerals in this ceremony during the time I served in the Presidential Honor Guard for 3 years," O'Hara added, referring to Monday's Leith reign as, quote, "the most respectful and solemn ceremony I've seen." Donald Trump, Tulsi Gabbard, and the rest of the team that came to pay their respects did that tenfold. There were no speeches, no angles, no weird photo ops, just our elected officials and the 45th president respectfully and solemnly honoring the fallen and their families. He added that he personally witnessed as Trump, without any aides or handlers, rushing him on to the next event, giving the family of the fallen his time. Quote, "I watched President Trump spend more time at the graves with the families than I have ever seen any politician or any political representative do before. Just him truly showing gratitude and love to these families for their loss. No matter what the party, that is what I look for in my elected officials, Americans ready to serve and support Americans. God bless this country and those who fight for it. And for those no longer with us, you will never be forgotten. But why listen to this guy's perspective? He's probably some domestic terrorist after all. He's probably some racist. We should instead listen to the networks that are doing everything they can in order to get Kamala Harris elected president of the United States while getting her political opposition imprisoned. J.D. Vance talking about the whole situation at a rally, specifically not the wreath laying, but talking about the complete lack of accountability from this administration when it comes to the betrayal of our armed service people and what they did in Afghanistan.
Not on media's time frame.
But you don't think that in any way.
Wrong audio. Here we go. J.D. Vance.
And the other thing our veterans care a lot more about is that 3 years ago, 13 brave, innocent Americans died, and they died because Kamala Harris refused to do her job, and there hasn't been a single investigation or a single firing. I don't, look, sometimes mistakes happen. That's just the nature of government, the nature of military service. But to have those 13 Americans lose their lives and not fire a single person is disgraceful. Kamala Harris is disgraceful. We're going to talk about a story out of those 13 brave, innocent Americans who lost their lives. It's that Kamala Harris is so asleep at the wheel that she won't even do an investigation into what happened. And she wants to yell at Donald Trump because he showed up. She can go to hell.
Coming up, I want to, it's J.D. Vance. The Hill had a piece, and it was under the headline of Trump out there. Essentially, he's trying to distance himself from the Afghanistan disaster and instead pin it on Biden and Harris. You know, the people who are actually responsible for it. But I do think that it is very important to understand it's not extremely in the weeds or anything, but it's easy for them to mislead people by saying that, well, they didn't have any choice. This was, Trump tied their hands on this thing, which is amazing because Trump wasn't able to tie their hands on anything else. He wasn't able to tie their hands on the border. He wasn't able to tie their hands when it came to dealing with North Korea. He wasn't able to tie their hands when it came to the Nord Stream pipeline from Russia into Europe. He wasn't able to tie their hands when it came to economic sanctions on Iran. He wasn't able to tie their hands when it came to how he was dealing with Putin or China or the Houthis or the economy or taxes or the Keystone Pipeline or any of these other things. But somehow, they were just absolutely incapable of making their own decisions when it came to Afghanistan. But I want to explain, because it can be easy to hear something like that, particularly for the average person, and think, well, gosh, I guess if they didn't have any choice. But there needs to be an understanding here of the difference between what Trump was doing and wanted to do versus what Biden did. The Pyramid Roofing Company, talk and text line 447 KSGF. More on that, just over a minute. All right, so listen to some of this article from The Hill. Former President Trump is trying out a campaign strategy to attack Vice President Harris as a straw man for the failures surrounding the U.S. pullout for Afghanistan, a chaotic and deadly event that cast a dark shadow over Biden's term in office but succeeded in ending America's longest war. So it's Trump and it's a campaign strategy, see? So this is all politics, in other words. That the people who ordered, executed, and then claimed it was a great success with the disastrous withdrawal of Afghanistan, they're not actually responsible for it. It's just, if you think that, it's because Trump, this is a campaign ploy by Trump, the guy who wasn't president any longer, the guy who was not commander-in-chief, the guy who was not any longer calling the shots. Kamala Harris herself said that she was the last person in the room when the decision was made and that she was happy with the decision. She was fully supportive of it. Now, does that sound like someone who had no choice in the matter but was only managing something that they had no choice but to manage from a previous administration? It wasn't Kamala Harris saying, no, we really didn't like the way it turned out, but we didn't have any choice. She fully takes credit for what took place. So you have Trump acknowledging that they were in charge during the withdrawal of Afghanistan. You have Biden and Harris both on the record embracing the fact. Some might even say boasting, particularly with Kamala. I was the last one in the room, and you're darn right I support what happened and the way it happened. Yet for the media, it's confusing. It's debatable over who is in charge. Who's debating this issue? Because everyone in the political realm at some point has agreed who is in charge. The left and some establishment Republicans like to point out, well, they were just simply following the timeline that Trump set into place. Number one, that's irrelevant. Because, again, there isn't a single other timeline Trump had in place for anything that Biden didn't brag about overturning. Remember all those executive orders? That was much of what he said. He was going to spend those first 100 days, the first 24 hours, first 48 hours, first 100 days undoing everything Trump did. But furthermore, you see, Trump's plan was built upon certain behaviors from the Taliban. They also love to, and this is important, like, well, part of what Trump did, he bypassed the Afghanistan government. Instead, he went to the Taliban. You know, that's just crazy. Why would he deal? What is this guy dealing with the terrorists for? I remember talking with, at an event, after this, this disaster came out, and then all of a sudden the Democrats are like, it wasn't our fault. Trump negotiated this deal with the Taliban. And a, quote, Republican lawmaker saying, I just can't believe the news that Trump negotiated with the Taliban. I just can't believe that. I didn't bother getting into the discussion because I didn't want this person to feel like an idiot at this particular event. It wasn't a political event, actually. It was a non-political. Sort of, kind of. Anyway. But my thought was he wasn't negotiating. He was putting them on notice that we want to get out of here. And the reason he was dealing with the Taliban, because the Taliban was the one that was the problem. Ultimately. Trump didn't want a middleman delivering the message. He understood that if problems occurred, it would be because of the Taliban. Now, the Afghani government may cover or assist or help. But also, Trump was smart enough to know, I can't trust them. I cannot trust the Afghanistan government to convey the actual message I need conveyed. I can't trust them to not say, well, here's what Trump said, but here's what I think we ought to do. So Trump did what a smart person does in evaluating the room and recognizing the players, and that is talk directly to the problem people. And he told them, listen, our plan is to get out of here, but I'm telling you right now, if you cause problems, there is going to be hell to pay. The deal's off. This is where Trump, through a translator for the Taliban, pulled out, it was his phone or some device, and showed him via GPS exactly where his family was and said, you tell him. See this? You and everyone you love will be gone. We track you. We know where you are. You think we don't? We do. And if one service member, one, comes into harm's way by you all, then this withdrawal is going to be your worst. It is going to turn into hellfire. And you will, and everyone you care about will be destroyed. The translator did not even want to convey that message. But Trump said, tell him. It wasn't a negotiation. It was putting them on notice. This is what's going to happen to you if you do not do what I say. And for the next 18 months until Biden was sworn in, not a single U.S. service member was attacked by folks from the Taliban. Isn't that amazing how that works? The Taliban knew it. Now Biden gets in and is like, okay, well, we're going to withdraw. The difference was it didn't matter what the Taliban did. It did not matter. It was open season on American troops. And we're still going to do it anyway. Don't you worry. Oh, we'll send a drone over to kill a station wagon full of kids. No one was held accountable for that either. The idea that the withdrawal that Biden-Harris executed was in any way, shape, or form something that was a Trump plan is insanely ludicrous. And the Taliban knew that, which is why the Taliban went from total and complete compliance to suicide bombing and killing as many civilians and Americans and U.S. troops as possible. Because they knew they weren't dealing with Trump anymore. Springfield's Talk 1041. I'm Nick Reed. Text message, if Mark Z confessed that the Biden administration pressured them to censor stories, isn't that election interference? Why aren't charges being brought to those responsible? I mean, Republicans have this stuff handed to them. This is why the Democrats, specifically Jack Smith, is trying to put Donald Trump in prison, arguing that he was participating, violating federal law by way of election interference. And so, yeah, I mean, it was blatant election interference, deliberately done to mislead people to alter the outcome of the election. But hey, they're Democrats. Oops. Springfield's Talk 1041. Here's what Christopher had to say about Emily Johnson, House Theory Realty. We highly recommend Emily of House Theory Realty for any of your home buying or selling needs. She and her team did a fantastic job in helping us relocate from the West Coast to finding our new home in Branson. With relocating, taking on a new position, plus a crazy schedule, my wife being on the West Coast and coming out for quick in and out trips, adding very specific must-haves for a new home, Emily made that whole process extremely easy and a pleasure. Thank you for everything you did. We are very happy in our new home. You know, some of these, I know, isn't that nice?
That's so sweet.
Yeah. It's a true story.
I know.
True
it's
story.
good to hear from customers that appreciate you.
Yeah, that's
Yes.
Chrissy Fonecki for those of you that don't
Good
know
morning, everyone.
who that voice is.
The new person here.
Yeah, she's new. She's new here. But that, you know, sometimes these transactions are easy. Sometimes it's very simple and it goes by quickly. But other times, particularly if you are leaving, moving out of town, that can be just as difficult to try to sell your home as trying to find a new one in a new market. We talked with Emily about a family that moved to Japan, and somebody was supposed to take care of getting their house prepped to sell, and things just didn't happen, and she did all of that. She took care of it, and you can imagine how stressful that is to not only be not in the area, but in a whole nother country while trying to sell your home. So whether it's buying or selling long distance or across the street, Emily Johnson, House Theory Realty. What's up?
Hello.
Sucking on a cough drop over there.
I know, that's right.
What's wrong
I've been
with
talking
you?
a lot in court. And like I said.
Lucky court.
Lucky court, yeah.
I know, no.
A little screaming, a few courtrooms. No. No, that's
What did you
fierce
s-
advocate, so that's why I'm losing my
object.
voice.
Is that what you yell? I object. And they're
And
like,
you-
we're not even in session. We're just getting
Your wife
ready.
used to say sidebar all the time.
Sidebar, yeah, sidebar.
We're gonna rap.
And I'd always say, what would I say? We're idiots. The things that we would. I'll allow it, McCoy. That's what I would say. I'll allow it, McCoy.
What you're talking about? Like, you can
Clearly,
pretend like
I
you do.
watch enough Law and Order that I know
Yes.
I could easily defend some sort of murder or prosecute one, whatever. I could do it all.
But that's okay. You can pretend like you do.
Yeah, that's right. I will.
know?
All right. So, just watching this crap
Just,
still on.
The lifespan of politics, and what I mean is like the news cycle. There hasn't been, I think, a short period of time in the past 8 weeks that more things haven't happened in like our history of being alive. I mean,
Oh yeah,
from
no, it's true.
assassinated Trump, from the conventions to what happened to Biden
Yeah,
to-
overturning all those elections for Biden.
just this morning. And who would have thought in our lifetime that a Kennedy would have endorsed a Republican? I mean, I was trying to explain to my kids the gravity of that and how important that is. And they, they're like, oh, okay, whatever. But,
Yeah,
but,
you know what you know.
yeah, it's really incredible what's happened.
I'm
mean,
watching
Tulsi Gabbard's
this
unsurprising, but-
absolutely disgusting coverage of Trump complying with the request of these Gold Star families to go to Arlington Cemetery with them. Arlington Cemetery.
Yeah, that was amazing.
And the media, the headline this morning is controversial visit to Arlington. It's not controversial to anyone other than people who don't want him to be elected president, because they don't want the American people to see him in the context of those who serve, the family members who serve. And so it's not controversial for the family members who ask him to be there. It isn't controversial for what is controversial is, according to the family members, they did everything they could to prevent it from happening. The folks at Arlington Cemetery, to the point
I
that
didn't know that.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, really? That's shocking.
Mike Johnson had to step in because they reached out to some of their members of Congress saying that they are making it impossible for us to even coordinate amongst. Once they realized that they wanted Trump to be part of it, they then started to make it difficult for them to even coordinate as family members to where they could all be there at the same time. And flat
horrible.
out told them, if you have Trump with you, you're not going to be able to go see your children's graves. He cannot do that.
Who is that? The cemetery? That would be.
Yeah, whoever's in charge of it. But that's not the controversy. The controversy is that Trump was there. That's the kind, and they're trying to claim that somebody from his staff he got into a physical altercation. It's amazing that with cell phones, people always fit. There's none of that footage. Of course, there's never.
Biden sitting at the beach.
Oh yeah, of course.
Pictures, and it looked like he couldn't even open a water bottle. Like those people are walking by him, like kicking sand on him. Like
They're watching. They're like,
surely that's total weekend of Bernie's there. They're like, that's not. That can't be the president.
At one point, like his staff, like, are those flies flying around him? Maybe somebody should go poke him with the stick, the living stick, see if he's still alive.
It's fun watching that because there's so many pictures of him sitting in that chair on the beach, and and people do a double take. I just think it's funny. They're like, "What? Wait a minute." Yeah. You would think like the world's at peace and they were having like a great economy.
Like, we don't have anything to do.
I've done my job. I might as well kick back at the beach.
Yeah, we finally have that great utopia that the Democrats have always claimed they could craft for us. We don't have to worry about anything. Everything's fantastic. Yeah. Just go hang out on the beach for weeks at a time.
And then I kind of thought of that scene in Minneapolis that people have been showing where the city's burning to the ground and Biden's sitting there like you said with the flies.
Have you seen the footage? There is out there. Colorado is run by you got a Democrat governor out there and real big on the sanctuary status thing with the illegals. And there's footage that is shown essentially Venezuelan gangs have taken over an entire apartment complex, essentially holding Americans hostage in their homes. And, it's like, Kamala 2024, let's have more of that. What people's expectations are so low.
Posted that somebody posted something about that picture of Minneapolis burning in 2020, I think it was, and I still got a notification from Facebook about that. I thought that's somebody's actual picture showing of the city burning.
Well, it's probably global warming that contributed to that. We got Christy Fulnecki with us, going to get a weather check right now. The latest news.
And the first alert forecast from Colorton, Fox 49 meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by Wolfpack Cleaners, your residential and commercial cleaning professionals. Today, it'll be sunny with a high near 94. Tonight, mostly clear with a low around 72. For Friday, an 80% chance of showers after 1 p.m. with a high near 88. And on Saturday, we do have a 50% chance of showers and thunderstorms, and then mostly cloudy skies with a high near 81.
So finally, Kamala, after a great amount of decision making as to which network and interviewers she felt would be most helpful for her campaign, decided to sit down, still needing her emotional support animal there with her. Evidently, she just needs a man there to help her. Yesterday, we were
pathetic.
Yeah, we were talking.
Just making us look so bad.
We were talking. I listen. I've said if we, I'm all 100% for 100%. If she's qualified, woman president. But do we really want this to be the first one? Is this really the best as a country we can serve up? This idiot. And she's an idiot.
She is an idiot.
She is an idiot. And yesterday we were speculating, how is it that they are going to spin the fact that she has to have a man there with her during the interview in order to have the interview? And one of the approaches that they're taking is that, well, this is just, I mean, it's in line with history. Every presidential candidate sits down with an interview with their vice presidential candidate. Well, that's true after they're announced and after they have given themselves countless interviews and press conferences. Yeah.
You can't sit down for one interview by yourself.
Well, and a lot of times it's after the convention or after they're announced, sit down, and it's almost like, hey, it's like a new couple. And so it's, oh, you guys are together now. Let's talk about that. Not when someone who's running for president and actually hasn't gotten a single vote, did not run to get the nomination, and then will not do any press conferences or even had a solo interview in this capacity. So they're trying to make it seem like this is perfectly normal. It's not. But I thought that this was one of my favorite exchanges. And Sean Spicer was on there. Was it Sean? No. Who was it? You've got.
Is CNN or what is it?
Okay, it is Sean Spicer, and who is the other? There's a Democrat, A. Scott Bolden, and this is on News Nation, and they're discussing this very issue.
Not on media's time
But
frame.
you don't think that in any way, Scott, that can be seen as a weakness for her to be joined by her running mate versus just sitting down one-on-one with Dana Bash?
Well, I think I anticipate her sitting down one-on-one with Dana Bash at some point doing the interview that's going to run. And at some point, Tim Walz is going to be doing a joint interview with her. But that's not a weakness at all. In fact, that's a strength, showing that my number two has plenty to say, and we're a partnership, and that we are moving forward together. So I don't see that as a weakness at all.
Oh, my gosh.
Well, so I underestimated, or maybe overestimated. I was anticipating that there would be some sort of rationalization. That Democratic operative, he wasn't even rational. He's just like, no, it's a strength. Like, oh, okay. No real rationale.
Yeah. Whatever you think.
Shows how strong she is.
That's not right. I mean, what do they have left than to just say the opposite of what you think? That's all they have.
Someone yesterday compared the Kamala Harris campaign to the episode in Seinfeld where George Costanza decided to do the opposite of his instinct on everything just to see how it would work for him. And everything started going right. And he's like, this is brilliant. I just do the opposite of what I normally would do. Yeah. And that's how Kamala and the media is running this campaign. Yeah.
Because he's
just everything. Yeah. I'm
do the opposite.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so Kamala, she's against fracking. I'm for fracking. She was for EV mandates. No, I'm against EV mandates. She's against a border wall. It's medieval, she said. It's a vanity project. It's horrible. It's awful. Now she's for a border wall. So she's doing the George Costanza thing here to see if that makes people actually like her.
So, liberals, newsflash, when you are lying so much, there are still people in the Democratic Party who are actually moral. I think there are. Like Kennedy and some of these other people.
Well, you see what happens to them.
Yeah, right. That actually believe in God and think there are consequences when you lie every single day in your campaign. I mean, there are going to be so many people that leave their party, at least the moral ones and not the crazy ones. But, I mean, it's pathetic. It's so pathetic.
Kamala. Go ahead.
Well, no, I think this is going to be, is it tonight, the interview?
They're airing it tonight. It's going to be edited and
Oh,
it's
that's
pre-recorded. She wouldn't, so it has to be pre-recorded. And I'm sure that they probably also require approval on the final edit, which CNN's going to do. I mean, they're going to do, again, their whole goal and purpose. They may not even need to give approval because CNN's going to do whatever they can in order to.
See her now that when she won't answer the question or she'll say one thing and then she'll turn to him to finish it or to actually answer the question.
Maybe they'll say, hey, okay, here's what we're going to do. Of course, it's going to be fake and inauthentic. But in order to in order to demonstrate that Kamala's in charge, we're going to have you, Waltz, a couple of times start talking, and then she's going to turn around and be like, shut up. I'm talking.
You're talking.
I'm talking. Okay.
Yes.
I'm talking. Talking is when my mouth is open and things are coming out of it that are words.
Oh my gosh. Well,
What if that's the whole interview?
Yeah. They edit. Our interview ended up being 3.5 minutes long. So it was actually 2 hours of content. They just had to cut it all down.
well, I mean, I think the thing that upsets me too as a female is because I actually had to go through law school and I have to stand in front of a judge. And if I don't know the answer, I get yelled at. And so I'm constantly in my job getting yelled at for not saying the right thing. And here we have a female that wants to be president who can't even go out in front of people and answer questions.
Horrible.
So, I mean, for women that are professional or actually any woman that could speak, I mean, we're held to such a high standard that we're not even holding her to.
Well, a lot of it's political affiliation, but she.
Oh, yeah,
I mean,
right. I know.
anyone who wants to push back against there's this narrative like, well, women have to work twice as hard. All somebody who, if they want to say that's not true, point to Kamala Harris and be like, really?
I know. Exactly.
You can't argue that any longer because look at this piece of work here. This complete idiot, the town fool, and they are doing everything they can to make her president of the United States. So she didn't even have to run for the job, or for the nomination.
The standard they hold conservative women to. I mean, when conservative females run for office,
the only women that they hold up and celebrate are those that are obedient. I mean, it's just true.
For themselves.
And she is a perfect example of it. She's obedient. She does what she's told to do. She certainly did so for Willie Brown, which is why he got her that position. And then, Biden appoints her. Somebody noted every advancement in her career has been because of a man, a way that she could serve a man. For Biden, it was a woman of color that, they felt that was going to be beneficial to the ticket. For Willie Brown, we all know what she was doing there. But it's all been about what can she do for a man in exchange for them giving her some sort of position.
Trump, which I'm sure he will, hammer what the most important part of that job is commander-in-chief. So, hey, hon, there's not anybody that's over you when you go sit down in the situation room and you're facing a real crisis.
But we know with her there would be.
Well, yeah.
I mean, she's not going to be making, and that's
Biden. I mean, you think Biden's sitting there? He's probably like watching the flies fly around the situation room. He's like, where am I again?
It's a crypt keeper. Very confused though.
Especially it's like dark. I've been in that situation room. It's dark and there's no windows. That was back in the day when you could get in.
It's just back in the good old days.
No, that's right. When there weren't like gates everywhere around everything. But I think this whole thing, and if I was Trump too, I would keep playing or keep emphasizing how many hostages we have. When you were talking last hour about Afghanistan and that whole pathetic thing, how many hostages are still there? And then the whole thing with Israel, I would say, okay, even though not all of those were Americans, we still have, I think, 8 or 9 or 10 or something Americans from last October in Israel, or that were taken, that Hamas took.
The problem is these people are such a train wreck. It can become just noise. It's like, which of these atrocities that they are responsible for do you focus on? And I think for most that are really analyzing it and thinking, okay, what's going to move the needle here? It's got to be the border and the economy, because those are things that, especially the economy, that affects people. But what I would do, they keep talking about how even on these issues, that, well, she flip-flops. And I don't think even people are so used to hearing that term. I don't think it really hits them. What I would just do is I would run. No, there's this, and I've seen it. Here's what she's saying about banning fracking, and now she's saying this. I would leave the now she's saying this off of it. And don't even try and portray her as a flip-flopper. Portray her as going to ban fracking. And then make them come out and say, well, that's not how she feels any longer. Make them demonstrate that you can't trust them. But when it comes to the things that she said about, free taxpayer-funded medical care for illegals and banning insurance and all these things that now they're like, oh, she's not for that. I leave out the flip-flopping. Just present that. If I'm Republicans, just present that side. Here's what run the ads. Here's what she said she's going to do. Here's what she said she's going to do. And then let them be the ones to counter it.
Well, you can't even really say she's flip-flopping because she hasn't had a press conference or said exactly what she stands for now. So you can't say that she's flip-flopping. So that would be appropriate.
We've got some audio coming up. She stopped at Liberty County High School in Hinesville. I don't even know what state it is.
Just real people or?
Well, there's students.
Oh, okay.
Band students. And it is what you would expect. So we'll play some of that audio.
It's the whole time.
I mean, the fairly consistent feedback from the general public is, why does she insist on talking to people like they're toddlers? And she does the same thing. There are a lot of visuals with it as well. Where she does it is if you did not see the audience, you would think, in the way that she is talking and her mannerisms, that she is talking to a kindergarten class.
Yeah.
Which isn't unusual.
She's very condescending when she speaks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've got that audio coming up. Christy Fulnecki with us, Pyramid Roofing Company. Talk and text line 447 KSGF. Got a Heroes Breakfast tomorrow. Join us at Scramblers Friday Road Show, sponsored by Custom Shade Window Tinting, powered by 3M Window Film. And a Heroes Breakfast that thanks to Scramblers. Also, Delta Roofing, Air Services, Heating, Cooling, Plumbing, Electrical, and brand new incredible partner, fantastic organization based right here in Springfield, Warriors Journey. That will be tomorrow. Free breakfast for veterans, Scramblers 6A to 9A.
Springfield's Talk 1041, your first alert forecast from Color 10, Fox 49 meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by St. Clair the Ozarks Home Improvements. Today it'll be sunny with a high near 94. Tonight mostly clear with a low around 72. For your Friday, we have an 80% chance of showers after 1 p.m. with a high near 88. And on Saturday, a 50% chance of showers and thunderstorms, and then mostly cloudy with a high near 81.
Wilder RV, Clinton, Missouri, just over an hour north of Springfield, relatively short drive, full spectrum of maintenance and repairs. They don't only help deliver you that baby, but they help you raise it as well. HVAC, plumbing, electrical, water damage, slide outs, appliances, you name it, or maybe, backup cameras, entry steps, the things that you don't necessarily think of so much as instrumental to a properly functioning RV, but that helps step it up a bit in terms of convenience. They can handle all of that for you. I recommend annually you do this so that you can extend the life and quality of that RV, and free on-site sewer dump and propane bottle fill as well. So you name it, they've got it. They're fantastic people. All of your RV needs. It's Wilder RV in Clinton, Missouri. Also, you can find them, KSGF.com, Nick's endorsements. A couple text messages.
Okay.
This is Bill from Pittsburgh, Missouri. Where's Pittsburgh, Missouri?
Ooh, I
know
don't
Pittsburgh,
I've never driven
Kansas.
there.
Yeah, I do not know where Pittsburgh, Missouri
Okay.
is.
Stars on it.
Yeah. You can hear tap, tap, tapping away.
It's close to Pomme de Terre.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Watching CBS News, we were talking about the way that the media is trying to cover for Kamala needing Tim Walz there for that interview. And he said that when they were closing out the story, the reporter said, and I quote, "In standing with long-term tradition, they will be giving the interview." So again, it's trying to make it seem like, oh, this is perfectly normal. Because what they're doing, again, you have past presidential candidates that do numerous interviews on their own. Then they will do one with their vice presidential candidate, usually after the announcement or the convention. And Kamala, of course, refuses to do any by herself, only one with him. And they're trying to make it seem like that's perfectly normal, which, of course, it is not.
Well, I'm surprised that she's even doing this. Because if you don't have the media holding you accountable, I mean, she might as well not give any press conferences or...
Well,
she's going to breeze past the early voting, and
she backed herself into it. And this is why they don't want it. This is a result. This is why they don't want her talking to the media. The one time that she made almost an off-the-cuff remark, she decided after all the criticism and noting that she wouldn't even talk to reporters, and she was, I think, on a tarmac somewhere, and a reporter asked her, "Are you going to just even do an interview?" And, "Oh, yeah, I'm talking to my team about that. We're going to get something together before the end of the month." Well, about a week ago, it started getting mentioned. That's coming up real quick. And so because she opened her mouth and said that, I think that they felt like, well, we have to do this now because Kamala opened her big mouth, put a date on the calendar, and they wouldn't do it, of course, unless it was pre-recorded with CNN, her hand-picked person, and then having Tim Walz there to hold her hand. Someone said we ought to show a clip of Margaret Thatcher standing alone against the Labor Party in the Prime Minister's question.
What a great example.
Yeah. Can you imagine Kamala Harris in that sort of scenario?
Can you imagine Margaret Thatcher and Ronald Reagan looking and observing what's going on right now, and having somebody run for president that can't stand up and give a speech or stand up?
Well, just think what the leaders like North Korea, Iran, Venezuela, China, or our allies. I mean, you think that they're not panicked? Taiwan, for example, they know what this spells for them if she gets elected president. Before I play the audio, though, I think that potentially the most volatile time for the world is if Trump gets elected, the time between the election and the swearing in.
Yeah.
Because
I was thinking about that
because
too.
if Kamala gets elected, they know, okay, we've got at least 4 years to further plan out what it is we're going to do. It's inevitable at some point China is going to invade Taiwan. What is going to happen with other terrorist organizations and countries that have seen, I mean, the Taliban got an entire country because of this administration, and like the fourth largest military in the world now. Then you've got them pushing to give Hamas their own country with the two-state solution. if Kamala gets elected, they've got breathing room to further plan out, to put off whatever.
To destroy America.
Yes. But if Trump gets elected, then they're going to realize, okay, we're now limited in the time that we can do something. And there's a very good chance what will happen is they're going to try to make as much ground possible, because realizing, okay, for example, invading Taiwan, China believing that, well, Biden isn't running the country. They're not going to do anything.
Yeah.
And in fact, probably they'll let us do it because they'll think, well, this is going to be Trump's mess. Let's allow China to make this as difficult as possible by getting as advanced as they can in their war. That way it's Trump's problem.
Yeah.
You could see them doing that,
Yeah.
sacrificing American commitments.
America first, yeah.
And so that is a scenario in which I think that we're going to be the most volatile in terms of world peace. Here, this is
Kamala.
Kamala.
People coming across the border too.
This is the brilliance of what many people believe should be the next president of the United States. Speaking to high school band members at Liberty County High School in Hinesville, some state.
Fight for time. Players for bringing joy to everybody in the dance, to the music that you guys are creating. And so we wanted to come up gently that our country's counter, all of you, you are leaders. By the very fact that you all are here in this room, doing what you do at this incredible school, doing it as one big team, understanding all of the different parts that fit together to create a team. You are doing some of the best work any leader can do. And we're so proud. We will count on your generation, all that you guys stand for, everything you have at stake is what is going to propel our country into the next era of what we can do and what we can do.
It goes on for a couple more minutes, and it's very circular. She on numerous. She's like, just be you are leaders because you're leaders that are here leading as a team together. Now, there's
and if I was a kid, I'd be like, "Hey, lady, I just play the trumpet.
I know.
I don't know what you're talking about. I just take trumpet lessons, and I'm only here to be here." So,
meanwhile, the kid in the back who is relegated to dinging the triangles, like, it's about time. Damn straight.
Glad somebody finally recognizes me.
I'm gonna go home and tell my stepdad.
Ding.
Ringing that bell all the way home.
We're just trying to all march together in the same leg. Get the marching down, and even this lady thinks we're the leader of the country.
Yeah, they're thinking, does she know who she's talking to? We're 8th grade band members here. Like, we just got our instruments. She's in here saying, what, the country is counting on us? I mean, what the hell is that? The entire country is relying on you. I'd be like, for what? To play a very bad rendition of a Star Wars theme song during halftime at the next game?
Can you imagine them going home to their parents? Like, this lady that's running for president told me that there's a lot, like, I have all this responsibility. Did you sign me up for this?
I told you I didn't want to play the clarinet. Like, I heard you had a speaker today. Well, I don't know. I got to tell you, on one hand, she seemed like an idiot, but on the other hand, she's got me really stressed out. I'm really, really worried about this.
So that band director's like, what? I'm getting paid $25,000 and now I'm the leader of the free world? What's going on?
I'm surprised she wasn't like, in fact, if any of you want to join my campaign as advisors, we could use some help. Like, lady, it's first hour. You're putting a lot on us here. What, the visually too, she's doing all of this. She's she is giving the body language that you would give to kindergartners as well, which is just what
It's condescending.
it
She's
is. It is.
Did it show the faces of the
Man.
kids?
No, it was behind them.
Oh yeah, that's classic.
They're holding their instruments, and Tim Waltz actually spoke before her. And the other thing that's funny in the visuals is he's standing behind her and he's like nodding his head, like, "Oh yes, yes, this is all brilliant analysis. Oh, you are all." He's backing her up. He's like, "You fools think she ain't serious? Like, I was a coach.
Yeah,
I know about teams. In case you don't know it, you are the leaders of the free world. You did not know you were signing up for that.
Yeah.
But what this broad here is saying is true."
Am I getting paid for this or what? I don't know. That's so sad. Oh, I'll have to find that and show my
Oh
kids.
yeah, there's
My
like
kids look
3
at it,
minutes.
it's so funny.
There's a full clip. Gateway Pundit has. I think I've seen it in a few places, but the full clip is about 6 minutes, and it's some teacher or somebody introducing her or them, and then Tim Waltz talks for a bit, and then she talks while Tim, like a bobblehead, stands behind her, like, "Oh yes, yes."
You know,
This is the most brilliant woman I've ever heard.
it's so interesting how where she goes to talk to people. When she went to the basketball, where was it? Was it the Wizards? I can't remember where she went to.
No, it was her
Yeah,
alma mater. I think it was.
Was
like,
it Howard? No.
Yeah. I think it was. I don't know where she
I
went.
don't know. I thought it was
Wherever it is, it
DC.
should be a shame that it graduated her.
Give this kind of inspirational speech when you did not play basketball.
That was
It's like trying to relate. I'm like, no, that you don't do that.
that was the speech that she gave them, in which she was telling them how proud she was, probably the rest of us too, because they played until the game was over.
Oh yeah, and then they lost.
Yeah, it's like,
Yeah.
well, that's how it works. But we played. What was it? We played some audio of her last week where she was talking to a team about how they would be undefeated even if they didn't, or even if you don't win all the games, you're still undefeated. Like, that's not how that works.
No,
That is not how
And
that
what did-
works.
I think this is last week. So did Coach?
Was it like a baseball team?
Coach, Vice President? Is this what you're saying?
He
Also,
like gets up afterwards. "All right, thank you very much, Madam Vice President. Okay,
Yeah.
first of all, everything she said is crap. It's not true."
yeah, he apparently
Coach
doesn't-
Walls, why are you stepping in here? You understand how this works.
He apparently did not ever listen to Bobby Knight, Mr. Coach Waltz. He doesn't know what he's talking about.
I saw a meme, and it was, did you guys watch Yellowstone? Did you all watch that?
No.
Okay, so you didn't watch it either.
No.
Well, listeners
Yeah.
will know this reference. Anyway, there's a character. It's the daughter, and she doesn't take crap. I mean, she's really hardcore in terms of dealing with people. I think her name's Beth. Yeah, her character's name. And it was a meme along the lines of, "I would just love for Kamala Harris to have to spend a day alone with Beth," or something like that. Just see how that
She
plays
would
out.
not.
Christy Filnecki with us, Pyramid Roofing Company, talk and text line 447 KSGF. I'm Nick Reed. Pyramid Roofing Company talk and text line. Kamala Harris is a walking, talking participation trophy. Yeah, boy, is that not? This is, I don't know, someone who texted in. And there's not any
I said that in.
Well, she is. For the longest time, whenever all of this participation trophy stuff started happening, oh, we're not going to keep score, we mistakenly looked at that and said, well, wait till they get out into the real world. Those people who are trained to not believe in merit and success.
Yeah.
And that we're all equal no matter how unequal we actually are in our efforts and talents and so forth. But what we failed to realize is that one day they would be the ones running the real world. And that's what's beginning to happen.
Right.
And this is such a perfect example. I know they're somewhat joking here, but in reality, this is the participation trophy perspective and attitude. Here's someone that didn't even run. Or she started to run once, failed miserably. She just had this handed to her, feels entitled to it, and she's being treated by at least one segment of the pub. Oh, you're so wonderful. You did such a great job. Oh, this is so historic. You won the No, none of that happened.
Yes.
None of that. She participated, but that was it. She won nothing. But the fact that they are treating her as if she has done something amazing. She did nothing. She did nothing. She didn't do anything to be vice president. In fact, I mean, she was a certain color and gender, which Biden said from the beginning. I'm going to pick a person of color, probably a woman, or a woman and probably or whatever. Yeah, all of this stuff. Yeah, it's just like, when her very first job as a prosecutor was because Willie Brown got that for her. I mean, she even the beginning of her career, but this position she's in, it's part of the reason it's so just dishonest. And it's almost a self-gaslighting that some on the left are doing, portraying her as doing something historic. She has done nothing.
If you think nothing. You said it's appropriate, entitled. Yeah. Because those are the people that are following her and that will probably vote for her, the ones that feel that they are entitled. And so, why should you have to talk to the average peon or the reporter? Why should you have to share your views? Like, I'm entitled to be in this position because I'm smarter than you are.
I have, to some degree, I've gotten to the point of acceptance that if she gets elected president, even if there's cheating, if enough people vote for her, that even with cheating she wins, we deserve the hell that we're going to get. Not just in the United States, but what we do to the world. We deserve the enhancement of terrorist attacks. We deserve a nuclear Iran. We deserve a North Korea that may launch a nuclear attack on the United States. We deserve drug cartels taking over small towns and cities. I mean, already, as I mentioned this morning, one of the news stories, footage of a Venezuelan gang that is allowed into this country illegally, essentially has taken over an apartment complex in Colorado somewhere, holding these people hostages in their own home. We deserve the crime. We deserve the continued decrease of results when it comes to education. We deserve the economic collapse. Because you cannot claim that, well, I just didn't know. No. At this point, we cannot get to that place and have a significant number of people vote a Kamala and be like, well, there was no way to know. There's no way not to know.
Yeah.
And so we will deserve the hell that we will be giving ourselves.
The scary thing is, with over 1 million people that were just taken off of illegals that were taken off of the Texas voter rolls, are other states, I think it was maybe Florida or somewhere, are they actually actively taking those people off of the roll to vote? I mean, that's what I was wondering, because you heard about Texas, and I thought, okay, well, that's where you have a Republican governor. Are these other states taking these people off? Because 1 million people in Texas, I mean, that's quite a few people that are on there that are not supposed to be there. So if you look at every state, I mean, how are you to control that if it's not for, your state?
Well, I tell you how you can't control it. By having a political party in charge who wants it to happen.
Yeah.
Who is facilitating it. Springfield's Talk 104.1, Chrissy Fulnecki, more in moments. I'm Nick Reed. The rich elites candidate, obviously Kamala Harris, and this is not demonstrated any more effectively than Hollywood people
Yeah, right.
who live
Yeah.
totally different. None of the economic woes that affect the average person in a meaningful way doesn't impact them the same
Yeah.
way. So none of that stuff matters. So they have the luxury of virtue signaling with their vote and encouraging other people to do because they aren't the ones who suffer
Yeah.
for it. But at the same time, they're also just deranged.
Yeah, I know.
Listen to this story. Alien star Sigourney Weaver started crying during a press conference at the Venice Film Festival in Italy yesterday when a reporter asked her about her character Ripley being a possible inspiration for Kamala Harris. Like, everything about this is out of touch with reality.
What?
The nonsensical question clearly moved Sigourney Weaver to tears as she praised Harris to the room full of appreciative international journalists, saying, quote, "We are all so excited about Kamala, and to think for one moment that my work would have anything to do with her rise makes me very happy,
these
actually,
people are-
because it's true." And I watched it. She started to break down and cry. I'm like, these
people
people are nuts.
Selves.
They are full of themselves.
It's all about them.
They're narcissistic.
Yes.
They're nuts. This is
Everyone has a personality disorder that is supporting her. I'm telling you.
What world, aside from you leave out the Kamala Harris component, would you even begin to think? And where even does this question come from? Like, if Kamala was always every interview, just in case anyone didn't know, my favorite movie's Alien. Has she ever even talked about this movie? Has she ever even seen the movie? We don't know.
Kind of music she listens to.
But clearly a logical question to ask is, hey, what do you think? This is how obsessed they are with this stuff. Here is a movie in which you've got, in a separate country, the International Press Corps, and the question is, how do you feel about the fact that maybe you inspired Kamala Harris through your character? It's like, what? I would be embarrassed to receive the question, let alone to
Answer.
cry, and then to cry because you're so touched at thinking that your character may have had something. It's like, other than the fact that the storyline of Alien is just as unrealistic as the idea that Kamala would be a successful president, there is no connection whatsoever between these two.
You wonder why the Democrats have done such damage to our country. It's because, like I said, I think last week, when you listen to those speakers they had from Clinton to Obama, they only care about themselves. They don't care about what they've done in this country. Biden, I mean, he's not even with us right now, but I mean, they have no empathy for other people.
They do not.
And so they don't care. Like, people say, well, how can they not care about their policies? Well, they don't care about solving problems because it's not their problem. I mean, they might take away your guns, but they're still going to have their border around their house and have all their guns protecting them. Same with Hollywood.
There was an article that noted one of the recent comments, or at some point a comment around some specific firearm that Kamala Harris was supporting banning, that her security team carries that very weapon. Well, of course, because she's allowed. It's different for her,
Yeah, and how many of those people actually go out and pump their own gas and are looking and seeing how what the prices are at the grocery store?
Doesn't matter to them.
Oh, except for that stupid thing when she was walking through the store, like getting Doritos or something. I mean, I was like, that's so staged.
What are you talking about? It was so relatable, so completely relatable and genuine. It was authentic.
They put these things on a shelf and they don't have someone help you get them. You have to get the groceries yourself. What kind of place is this?
It's awful. All right. Well, listen.
Are we done?
Yeah. I have author of the week coming up. You got to make room for something
to talk.
Something that has substance to it.
What they should do is they should put all the hostages and all the Gold Star families, and they should put all of those people on commercials. I think that will help us win.
Lucy Fulnecki, as always, great pleasure. We do have tomorrow, want to remind you that we've got that Heroes Breakfast free, breakfast for veterans at Scramblers, Warrior's Journey, along with Air Services, Heating, Cooling, Plumbing, Electrical, Delta Roofing, Scramblers, making that possible tomorrow from 6 to 9 at Scramblers. Springfield's Talk 1041. I am Nick Reed. A1 Custom Car Care. You got that check engine light on, and you think, well, I don't need to worry about it because my car is running just fine. That's why that check engine light is there. It's to let you know that you may not know something's going on, but something's going on. Once upon a time, you had a problem with your vehicle, wasn't running right. You could tell, but cars are essentially computers with wheels now, and the computers are designed in order to help your car, when possible, compensate for any sort of problems that may occur. That way you're able to continue to drive it and drive it comfortably, which the downside of that is you may not know that there's a problem. So that's why that check engine light is there. And sometimes it's not the biggest deal in the world. I feel like a lot of us who live in denial when something comes up like that and we think, oh no, what is this? No one loves to see that check engine light come on. And you always tell yourself, or I do, it's probably the gas cap. I just didn't get that gas cap on there tight enough. I bet that's what it is. And it could be that, or it could be something that is going to lead to something more severe. One thing about problems, they don't fix themselves. And so it's always better to find out as early as possible and fix it before it gets bigger. And your place to do that is A1 Custom Car Care. We have Author of the Week coming up in just a couple of moments. Lindsay Race is going to join us in studio. We always love when we have authors in studio. Of course, Author of the Week sponsored by the incredible folks at ABC Books on North Glenstone, just south of Kearney. But first, the latest news update.
And the first alert forecast from Colorton, Fox 49 meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by Wolfpack Cleaners, your residential and commercial cleaning professionals. Today we'll see sunny skies with a high near 94. Tonight mostly clear with a low around 72. For Friday, we do have an 80% chance of showers after 1 p.m. with a high near 88. And on Saturday, a 50% chance of showers and thunderstorms, and then mostly cloudy with a high near 81.
Author of the Week, sponsored by ABC Books on North Glenstone. They are fantastic folks over there, locally owned, local bookstore. And one of the great things about them is you stop by, you browse around. If they don't have exactly what it is you're looking for, fear not, they can get it for you. Oftentimes, you think, oh, well, I can do that and get it faster. Oftentimes that isn't the case just because of their abilities as a bookstore. So I definitely recommend that you stop by there for any of your book needs, whether they are used or new. Either which way, they can take care of you. And, of course, they make it possible for us every week to interview an author, oftentimes, and I mean a range. Sometimes we're talking to authors that are calling us from overseas, different time zones, and then other times we're able to have them in studio because they're local. And Lindsay Race is one of those individuals who is here, and she has a book, Miracle Babies, or Miracle Babes, God's Goodness in the Formation of Families. Hey, how are you?
Hey, doing well. Thanks for having me.
Well, tell us first about yourself a little bit, who you are.
About me. Well, my name is Lindsay Race, and it is pronounced Race. That's a big hot topic question.
I didn't know. People that don't know, it's spelled RACZ. And before you came in, I was unsure, and we were speculating. And I said, "Well, just ask her."
Right. My husband and I did have a Hungarian doctor, tell us that we did not say it correctly. But
How did he claim that you should say it?
there was a lot of like rolling of the R and the hard.
See,
I can't do it.
That would just sound like you were showing off.
Right.
If you did that. So
Just like
race
with
is much
race.
better. Yeah.
Yes. Well, I'm so glad to be here today. So I am a therapist in the area and have been for over a decade. Really, our practice focuses on women's issues, and we see teens, kids, and women. And so, that being said, I'm also a mom to 4 kids ranging in age from 19 down to 5. So sleep is a hot commodity at our house, and cognitive functioning is too, as we were just talking. Usually the brain turns on around 10 a.m., so we're lucky today, though I had extra caffeine.
We have one, and there were times, and she's of an age now where she's always been relatively self-sufficient. But I just, we got to take her here, do this, that, and having more than one is amazing. And Christy, who was here before you, she has 6. She and her husband. You have 4. I would almost think that that if you're emotionally healthy, you would almost have to black out at times just to make it through.
Well, dissociation.
Yeah.
Yep.
See
yep.
there.
There's a
I knew
therapy
there
term.
had to be a
Official.
term. Well, what's the motivation behind the book Miracle Babes?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, honestly, in owning a private practice and our expansion that we went through in 2020 after the pandemic, it had been a very busy season, and I was actually pulling away to get alone with God. My faith is very important in my life, and so I was pulling alone to get a God retreat for business really purposes so that I could seek some direction on some business decisions. So Miracle Babes was nowhere really on my radar as far as writing a book. We had some other irons in the fire. But during this particular retreat, this was back in December of 2022, I was really reading through some old journals and came upon a journal that I had written in a time when we were going through infertility. So we actually struggled for 3 years with secondary infertility, and there's a lot more to our story. But I kind of, you talk about blacking it out, I kind of pushed it down because then we also have this daughter that came from this season, and she's got some special needs. She has actually chronic kidney disease. And so those are things, in your everyday life, you're not really thinking about that in the forefront of your mind. But when you're going through that season of transitioning into having a child who's going to have medical needs after a season of infertility, you're kind of just in survival mode. So I had pushed those down, wasn't thinking a lot about them. We were just doing everyday life. And at this particular retreat where I slowed down to think about business decisions, I really felt like the Lord directed me. It was kind of insane. They say, when people say, "Oh, the Lord told me," it was one of those instances, and it wasn't audible. So I can't say that I've ever audibly heard from the Lord, but I was just writing in a journal, and all of a sudden, in a 5-minute period, I wrote down this title, Miracle Babes, God's Goodness in the Formation of Families, 10 different women's names, some of whom I had never met, and then one last line, all proceeds are to go to Pregnancy Care Center. So it was kind of just this whirlwind of, what did I just write? What does that even mean? Okay, I need to get back to focusing on business decisions that are coming. So that is how the book idea was born. It would have been very easy then, it was, December 11th, heading into Christmas season, to go back into the world, into the crazy everyday life and forget about that and try to push that away. But God wouldn't let me. He kept bringing the idea back around.
People, you mentioned, they say quite often, well, God spoke to me.
Right.
And I think that sometimes people think that means, well, you just felt like it was the right thing to do.
Right.
That it was here's somebody who came up with a really great idea and they're just so excited about it and it feels so right. That must mean because of God telling. And I think sometimes people themselves will say, because it all just seems right and the pieces fell together, so that must be the divine hand at work there. And it could very well be. But what I find in talking with people, and I have a friend who has started and is in this project, if you will, with this business, that he also, it was something that, because he was open to God, I think you have to be open to that in order to hear it, if you will. And he was like, this is crazy. He almost was, and he did try to convince himself, no, this isn't what God's telling you.
Right.
But it just kept coming up. And so I think it's an amazing thing whenever there is a person who really does receive that and understand that. And I think it's also important for people who haven't had that experience to understand that it's more than just somebody who had a really great idea and felt like, well, it must be God because it seems like such a great idea.
Right. That's such a good distinction. There's a difference between an open door and something that you actually really want, which, as you said,
Yes,
can
and
be
you
God.
rationalize
Right.
it. Sometimes
You're like, this is
he
what
wants me to do
He
it.
does. He wants that for sure. He wants me to eat chocolate
Yeah,
a lot.
right.
But no, this was definitely something I did not want to do. I will say I kind of spoke back to him and said, well, maybe there's somebody else who could head this up because I'm doing some other things right now. And
Isn't that hilarious?
yes.
Like when you look back on it, you're telling God, well, maybe you're wrong.
Right. It is. It's the typical parent-child relationship.
Right.
Maybe you didn't think this through.
Yeah.
You know?
I think maybe you should listen to my suggestion.
Right. What about one of my
That's so
siblings?
funny. Yeah, right.
Yeah. So I did kind of, we had a little dialogue, a little arguing back and forth. But ultimately my history has shown that choosing God is always the right path.
Generally
Generally
speaking,
speaking,
doesn't
yes, it does. He does always know best in this all-knowing capacity. And so I did decide my first step was to go to the Pregnancy Care Center. I honestly had not been. I was familiar with some of their work, but you can be familiar with an organization and not know their internal structure, their culture, and know if you really want to support them. So I thought, okay, well, if I'm going to check this out, if this was from the Lord, I need to go see what they're all about. And Lisa McIntyre gave me the tour that day. She's their executive director. She was phenomenal. She just walked me up and down every hallway, told me about all their programs, and I was sold. As soon as I left, I knew, okay, this is an organization that God really wants to support. The fathers, the new fathers they educate that are in their teens, their fatherhood program, just amazing work.
People don't realize that. Part.
It's beautiful. Yeah, they have training. They have so many gifts for new families or families in crisis. So it was really awe-inspiring.
Talking with Lindsay Race, the author of Miracle Babes, God's Goodness in the Formation of Families. And I want to take just a real quick break, just about a minute or so, and then we'll find out what the book is about.
Yes.
As we continue our Author of the Week, sponsored by ABC Books on North Glenstone. Tomorrow morning, we do have our Heroes Breakfast. Come out to Scramblers, where we broadcast live every Friday. And then every so often, because of our incredible partners, we're able to pull together by breakfast for veterans from 6A to 9A. Scramblers, of course, Delta Roofing, Air Services, Heating, Cooling, Plumbing, Electrical, and Warrior's Journey, an incredible organization partnering with us on that as well. So that is tomorrow from 6A to 9A. Author of the Week, sponsored by ABC Books on North. Glenn Stone and Lindsay Race is with us. Author of Miracle Babes, God's Goodness in the Formation of Families. So tell us about the book.
So, the book is an anthology, which means there are a lot of different authors. There are 9 women's stories in this book, and the stories range on anything from adoption, having a child with special needs, infertility struggles, and even child loss, miscarriage, the things that we never plan for in our life.
Okay, so why those stories of struggle, if you will?
Right. Well, ultimately, I believe that all of our lives are letters from Christ. That's in 2 Corinthians, that our lives are letters of Christ if and when we choose to surrender to Him. Now, the scary part about that is that life often, most times, doesn't go as planned. And then we have this struggle or this wrestling to decide that if we're going to release the plan that we had. And so really, there's this overarching theme in this book, these women who we've walked through a life that we didn't plan. When we're little and we're dreaming about we're going to have the marriage and we're going to have the family and the career and here's what it's going to look like. It's really clean lines. That's what we all dream of. But life is messy. Life is brutal. And so really, as common humanity, we need to be able to share these stories with each other so that we know we're not alone, so that we can see that Christ is still working, that God is still working when the plans don't look as we expected, and honestly, that He's working above and beyond what we could imagine.
It's Christianity, I'm a Christian, is from a human perspective to me, and that relationship is really kind of fascinating because to me it is very liberating. People who are not Christian, I think, and maybe even some that are, or I don't want to say attempt to be, but anyhow, you have a segment of the population that sees it not as liberating, but as a burden. Totally, completely different perspective. They see it as restrictive, as rules, as I have somebody that is telling me how to live my life. And I think that to them, it's incomprehensible that, in fact, it is the opposite of that. It's liberating.
It is
I'm just curious your
liberating.
thoughts on that.
Yeah.
Because I also imagine, the reason I'm thinking of this is you see these stories and these struggles, it sounds to me, as inspirational, as something that's much different than other people may view them as. Why me?
Right. So, first of all, you're talking about religion. And to me, religion is man-made. And man is flawed, so religion's going to be flawed. It's going to feel like restriction. It's going to feel like rules. Versus, for me, my personal testimony is I was not raised in a Christian home. My dad was a folk singer. He had French background, very non-traditional upbringing. But my mom was.
Fun, though.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah,
it was fun.
up.
Lots of bars and singing when I was 3 and at bars. Yeah. So that was non-traditional, I would say. But my mom is a well-educated teacher, elementary school teacher. And so, as we're looking at all of that, I went through a lot of hardship when I was younger and then didn't come to Jesus until later in life. And so I don't have that background of it's rules, it's this, it's my parents' faith, it's what I follow.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. Yeah, I bet that would be much different. It was a choice as opposed to it's what I've always known.
Forced.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or even as a child, well, that's just how it was.
Absolutely. So in that regard, I would say, everybody has to make their own choice, and it's a relationship. So relationships are messy. Sometimes I'm angry with God. Sometimes we feel really, really close. Sometimes I don't hear from Him. But that relationship is messy because it's a real relationship, which is so different from religion. So to your question, with Jesus, it's kind of like an upside down kingdom. The more I read scripture, the more I see that the things that we think are good are often not. Our comfort can sometimes dull us to the truth that we need. If we get too comfortable, we're not growing in character, we're not growing in depth. And then it's the suffering that actually ends up somehow being good, but not how our human minds would imagine. So it's a flip. Yes, it's definitely a flip to see it that way, that these stories with suffering are good. But you can also see that is as each woman surrendered her plans, sometimes they were pried from us, right? Pried out of our
Right.
white knuckled grip, that really what God gave back was something more than we could have imagined.
Yeah, overcoming those and experiencing those struggles, and then the ability to reach other people who may not necessarily have had the opportunity or did not take the opportunity at that point in their lives to recognize that pathway, that relationship, and that understanding and perspective of things.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. And what's interesting here is, you could say this book is serendipitous, miraculous, maybe hyphenate those two words, serendipitously miraculous,
Oh.
because some of these women whom I asked to share their story, when I drafted the email to go out to them, it was, you don't know me, and I would like for you to share, your deepest hurts and wounds. And by the way, you're not going to receive any money for this. You're not going to get paid. It's going to be a lot of work. You're not going to get paid. It will be hard. You'll feel, my friends and I joke, we call it a vulnerability hangover, when you share too much and then the next day you're like, what did I share? So for these women to say yes and be willing to share their story, some of them did know me, and I actually wrote in the back of the book in the acknowledgments that it's an even bigger risk for them when they did know me personally to share this and trust me with this project. But you can see the hand of God in all of this, orchestrating women from other states, sharing their stories. And by the way, we're all getting together at Architect Coffee Company on September 7th to do a book signing. All of us will all be
how
there.
neat.
So you can really see how the hand of the Lord has orchestrated just this entire project.
So those that didn't know you, how did you know them? How did you know to reach out to them?
Well, some of them I had heard of, or they were a friend of a friend type thing. Those
Got
are the
it.
biggest
Okay.
ways. Yeah, mutual connection, but we'd never actually met.
I imagine not every person you contacted was on board.
That is correct. There was one woman who did not feel called and led to move forward, and she did not, and I completely respected and understood that. Everybody else said yes, and so that
Really? Wow,
was
that's pretty remarkable.
pretty
I would think.
remarkable. It is. I would say so. The odds are not in our favor. And so for that to happen again, I just see the hand of the Lord. And the stories that are written in here, the women who wrote in here, their stories are so deep, so raw. You can really see that and just so well written. When you read them, some of the reviewers on Amazon wrote, I don't feel alone anymore. When I read this, I'm reading something of someone who knows what I'm walking through, or someone has written down the thoughts that I would never dare to say out loud. And so there's really a raw truth in these pages.
Well, we also all have struggles, and we all have grief, although we may not recognize it as such. And so the instinct that some people may have that, well, I've not been through these particular situations, so this doesn't apply to me, I would argue that's probably not accurate.
Which part?
That because, I've never dealt with a troubled pregnancy or
right.
even have kids, so these aren't stories that relate to me. It's not necessarily about the specifics, but just struggling.
Great point. Yes. You do not have to have walked through infertility or had struggles building a family. If you've been alive for more than 5 minutes, you have experienced grief. You're exactly right. And grief is a very common human emotion. Here in the West, in America, we are not very comfortable with it. I can tell you as a therapist that a lot of people come to therapy and say, my friends are pretending like nothing bad happened. We don't know what to do with it. But unless we walk through that, we cannot get to the other side and know the gift of grief and what that is bringing to us.
Are you from the area?
I am from the area.
Okay.
My parents were from Michigan, but they moved here before I was born.
All
And
right.
so Ozark, born and
Okay.
raised.
Anything else people need to know? I mean, it seems pretty comprehensive, what we've talked about this morning.
Yeah.
But I just didn't want
absolutely.
to end it and then you walk away thinking, oh, I wish I had mentioned this.
Right. No, I think we covered it. I hope everyone who's listening will find the book on Amazon, and we would love for you to read it.
You should reach out to ABC Books, and they do book signings there as well.
Yes.
Valerie, the owner over there, and she'll, I know, stock some of these up as well. We have a lot of listeners that every time we do one of these interviews, particularly local, they'll come by and
We
want to grab
love
these.
them.
So, ABC Books, absolutely incredible over there. Of course, they sponsor all. They've been doing. I've been here over 14 years, and they were sponsoring all through the week even before that. So that's how long they've been committed to that. Lindsay Race, the book is Miracle Babes, God's Goodness in the Formation of Families. It was great to meet you. Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you for
I
having
really
me. It's nice
appreciate
to be
it.
here, Nick.
I hope you have a great rest of your day.
You too. Thank you.
Springfield's Talk 1041. I'm Nick Reed.
Springfield's Talk 1041, your first alert forecast from Colorton, Fox 49 meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by St. Clair the Ozarks Home Improvements. Today we'll see sunny skies with a high near 94. Tonight mostly clear with a low around 72. For your Friday, we do have a chance for rain, 80% chance after 1 p.m. with a high near 88. And on Saturday, we also have a 50% chance of showers and thunderstorms, and then mostly cloudy with a high near 81. That's right. Told you.
That's right, you did. I don't know what all that was about. Just
Don't know either. I just went with it.
When that
She was great.
fantastic.
Yes.
It was. I love that sort of very uplifting stuff and information. Now, on the flip side, of course, this story is such a demonstration of when people, collectively as a culture or individuals, refuse to acknowledge reality, just live in a pretend world, and just it's like we shut down our minds, our brains, and we don't think through stuff. It's a Fox News story. Oakland homeless woman steals city council candidate's fundraising money. Quote, I was left to fend for myself, end quote. Homeless woman stealing a bag containing $1,000 worth of donations from Oakland city council candidate Charlene Wang's campaign. Now, she's a Democrat. This is Oakland. And just listen to this story. An Oakland, California city council candidate who is running for office on a platform of addressing the city's homeless crisis and skyrocketing levels of crime said she had a bag full of donations stolen by a homeless woman during her campaign kickoff event on Sunday. To make matters worse, she said that the police never showed up when she called 911. Charlene Wang, who is running for the at-large seat in the California city, says the homeless woman grabbed the bag, which contained about $1,000, at Clinton Square Park at around 4 p.m. Her team confronted the woman and pleaded with her to hand over the bag, but in the end she made off with the ill-gotten gains, Wang said. Video of the interaction shows Wang begging the disturbed woman to hand the bag back, but the homeless woman gets angry and refuses to turn it over instead. Quote, can we just get the orange bag, please? Wang asked politely to the woman. Quote, when I'm done, y'all want me to take this blank out so y'all can snatch it and run, she replies. The homeless woman, who is wearing two hats, a toggle coat, and untied sneakers, starts getting agitated and threatens a volunteer while shouting incoherently. Another volunteer with Wang says that he will give the homeless woman $100 to hand over the bag of money, but she refuses and said that she wanted the $100 first. Of course, frankly, I'm surprised that they didn't comply. Then Wang's team tried calling homeless services, but they were not available as it was the weekend. Then they called the police, who never showed up, having said that there were 250 other calls ahead of their incident. Wang told Fox News Digital, quote, "The complete lack of response we saw from both mental health and police services was unacceptable. I'm committed to hiring more police and improving mental health services to bring down response time and get people the help that they need." Wang told ABC7 that the police told her that they would still come by later to file a report, but she insisted that that never happened either. Quote, "I very much tried to have a de-escalatory conversation with the woman to convince her to hand over the bag, offer her a warm meal at the grocery store, even give her money in exchange for the bag, but that did not work out. I can only imagine the trauma she's going through having to live on the street. I'm not angry at her or anything like that. However, I think this is yet another example of first responder service. I was left to fend for myself in an essence." Fox News Digital reached out to the Oakland Police Department for comment. Oakland has faced mounting issues with homelessness, crime in recent years, with Wang hoping to tackle the issues if elected. She's a Democrat who previously worked for the Biden-Harris administration and the Department of Transportation, though it is a nonpartisan election, but she worked in the Biden administration. She's a Democrat. Her main policy goals include addressing public safety, reducing the cost of living, implementing a new strategy for homelessness, according to the website. Part of that strategy is to improve homeless people, or to provide them with housing, social services, and a job, with a new Oakland Core program to clean up trash and plant trees with the goal of helping them turn their lives around. Now, all of this is a demonstration as to why these problems not only exist, but continue to exist and become even larger problems. And that is because of a denial of what is effective versus ineffective ways of dealing with these things. Now, there are two totally separate situations that unfortunately oftentimes almost become confused with one another. One, this individual running for city council here talks about how she says that I can only imagine the trauma that this woman is going through having to live on the streets. I'm not angry at her or anything like that. However, I think it's yet another example of first responder service. I was left to fend for myself in an essence. Now, number one, here's what happens oftentimes. You have somebody who feels sympathy for a woman like this and recognizes that this is not a good situation and feels sorry for this person. Now, not everyone's going to feel sorry for an individual like this. Some people are going to be like, hey, it's not my problem, shouldn't be my problem. These people need to be taken care of. But you're going to have those who feel sympathy for them. The problem is when people feel sympathetic towards an individual who is in a place that most people would not want to be, they use that sympathy to excuse their bad behavior. They then act as if it is somehow acceptable for them to behave like it's beyond their control. There's nothing that they can do about it whatsoever, so I'm not mad at that individual. Well, you don't have to be mad at them. It's not wrong to be mad at them. You can be sympathetic with their situation and at the same time be upset and angry that they are behaving in this manner. There is this detachment from how you deal with the problem and the results that vexes people who do feel sympathy towards these people. In other words, there's just this refusal to believe that you can't come up with some magical government formula to make a person's life like this magically better. Oftentimes, the people who are on the street are there because that's their preferred lifestyle. Not always. Sometimes you have mental illness. Sometimes you have a mental illness which the people are just what some would call absolutely crazy, and you cannot reason with them. Other times you have people that it's simply an issue of depression and the way that they've dealt with their depression, or their trauma in life is substance abuse, and because of their substance abuse, they have let their lives spiral out of control to where they don't have a home and they don't have a place to stay, and so they are homeless. There is this sort of one-size-fits-all attitude about people who are on the streets when you really do have a variety of different reasons that people are there, some of which could, if they had no other option, get themselves out of that situation, while there's some that probably never could no matter what. When you have people like this, that here is an individual that demonstrates that they are not rational, grabs a sack of money at this political fundraiser, starts yelling incoherently, refuses to give it back, and they're trying to reason with this person, and then seem confused and at a loss whenever reasoning with the individual does not work. And this demonstrates part of the problem, particularly with some of these people that want to run for office and make decisions that deal with these people, is they demonstrate that they have no concept of what motivates these people. They have no concept of what works with these people. Here is somebody who expressed confusion at the fact that offering to take her to a grocery store and buy her a meal did not completely change her ways. I mean, she seemed perplexed by this. I offered to take her to a grocery store and buy her a meal. I just don't understand why that didn't work. We continue to put people in positions of authority that openly demonstrate they have no concept of what are the root causes for these individuals, but instead want to put makeup on it. They want to do things on the surface. So, for example, a person like this, you have this version of, quote, fixing the problem. Well, let's just build a free house for them to live in. That is not the root cause of this person's problem. You don't have someone lose their home and then that makes them go crazy and a substance abuse user and then live out on the street. Usually it's the other way around. You have somebody that might have, some sort of mental or emotional problems. They have substance abuse problems. And because of the grip that has on their lives, they begin to let go of their responsibilities and they stop making payments on their home, whether it's rent or whether it is a mortgage payment, and then they lose it because of that. And so you have these elected officials, they get in there and they have this backwards approach to all of this stuff, and that is to, take a person, well, we need to give them a free home. That's going to fix their problem. It does not fix the problem. We are going to give them free benefits, and that will fix the problem. Now, I think you can, at the same time, if a person says, well, they have to eat, so we do have to find some sort of help in some manner, that's very fine, well and good, but that does not solve the problem. That is simply helping them get through the day. And until we begin taking a real hard look at the real root causes. The root causes of this is not lack of housing. For these people, many of them, the lack of the house is a symptom of the problem, not the root of the problem. But the reason they take that approach is because it's easier. It is so much easier to tell the American people, or to tell the people of the city in which you have this particular issue, well, we just need more affordable housing. That's all we need. That will fix the problem. That's working backwards. That's the opposite direction. It's like somebody with a massive spending problem, and they have spent themselves into total and complete economic despair, believing that just giving them more money, well, they're out of money. Well, they just need more money. That's the problem. No, it is their approach to money. Running out of money is the symptom, not the root of the problem. Giving homeless people houses. Giving people $1,000 of basic income every month. These are approaches that make people feel as if they are doing something meaningful. And the fact that there are others that push back against it, saying this isn't going to work, this isn't the approach, it makes them feel as if they're doing something difficult because they're being fought against, and getting it done. So they feel that they're fighting a hard fight in order to do something good, when in reality, it's just the easiest pathway. It's so easy to believe that if you just dress it up, if you disguise it, if you make the symptom go away, that the root cause of the symptom is somehow taken care of, but it's not. And we continue in our culture to do this, and I get it. Again, as human beings, it's easy to do it. For some people, it allows them to not have to deal with the real problem. And frankly, it also runs in defiance of many people's beliefs that every single problem that somebody else has that they can solve. There is a narcissism to many people who run for office who think that if you just give me power, I can solve people's problems, as if every single person is just some machine that works and operates the exact same way as every other machine. And if you just figure out what that little glitch is, that's going to fix all of it. That's not how people work. And I thought that this whole scene out in Oakland between this big government person who believes government's the answer for everything, and she even says that, I'm just mad because the government wasn't there in order to fix this. Well, I called the police. I called homeless advocates. They didn't show up. Of course, what would they have been able to do? Probably if police had been able to show up and there was some sort of struggle and they had to restrain this individual, then those very people who called the police would complain about the police. Well, you didn't have to do it that way. Springfield's Talk 104.1, I'm Nick Reed. Sarah Myers.
Thank you. Well, with rain in the forecast for the next couple of days, if you are worrying that your roof or your gutters just won't be able to keep up, now is the time to call Josh and his team over at the Pyramid Roofing Company. Now, whenever you call the Pyramid team, they'll come out, they'll do a free roof inspection for you, and then they'll work through that insurance process and come up with the best solution for you and your home. The Pyramid team, they use high-quality products, and then they go above and beyond, and they use ice and water shield in the valleys and the eaves. Now, several counties in the listening area, they actually don't require ice and water shield to be applied, and actually many roofing companies don't use it, but the Pyramid team, they add it as that extra protective barrier to just add a little bit longer life to your roof. And they also offer a discount to our military and our first responders on new roof installs as well, so just keep that in mind. So if it is time to have the Pyramid Roofing Company out at your home, go ahead and give Josh a call today. You can find all of that contact information for the Pyramid team under the Sarah's Endorsements tab at ksgf.com.
There's a battle, interesting battle going on between Subway, like the locally owned franchisees versus corporate Subway. And I don't know if you've noticed this or not, but Subway has been advertising $6.99 foot-long sandwiches. Now, once upon a time in this country, before, Bidenflation and Kamalaflation, $5 footlong was a thing. Like that wasn't even, I mean, yeah, it was sort of a promotion, but it was pretty standard. Well, now footlongs range anywhere from $11 to $17. The corporate headquarters has been advertising $6.99 footlongs. And the problem with this, there's a revolt amongst the franchisees saying, we cannot afford this. And the response to that is, well, I guess you're going to have to. There's a piece by Jazz Shaw in hotair.com noting a couple of weeks ago we discussed an emergency meeting that was called by the owners of Subway sandwich shops across the country. A large number of their franchisees were complaining about all of the crazy coupons that the company was issuing, drastically slashing the price of various products in an effort to drive more traffic and increase the company's market share. Some of the discounts being offered by the home office were so steep that the individual stores were losing money on their sales and eliminating their profit margin. Apparently, those complaints fell on deaf ears because the company turned around and put out another similar offer almost immediately, offering footlong sandwich deals from $6.99 when the subs normally sell for between $11 and $17. This was apparently a bridge too far, and now the chain's largest franchise group is staging a revolt, encouraging other local outlets to ignore the offer and refuse to honor the coupons. The sandwich wars are upon us. New York Post writing, Subway's $6.99 footlong sandwich deal has sparked a revolt from the chain's biggest franchise group, which has raised concerns that the discount will spark losses for cash-strapped restaurateurs. Subway announced the promotion on Friday, joining the fast food value meal wars to lure back inflation-battered consumers. Under the deal, which is only accessible through the Subway app, a footlong sub goes for $6.99, sharply below regular prices between $11 and $17. The company has a potentially serious problem on their hands. Leading the revolt is the chairman of the North American Association of Subway Franchisees, or the NAASF. They represent more than 2,500 Subway franchises across the country. Bill Mathis is advising all of the franchisees not honor the $6.99 meal deal. He's advising the local outlets to opt out. As it turns out, the majority of franchisees have contracts with Subway dating back prior to 2021, and those contracts include a clause allowing them to opt out of deals such as this. Mathis has been breaking out some basic mathematics to make his argument. Subway's ownership claims that the purpose of the deal is to drive up traffic to the stores. But Mathis points out that this approach is not coming close to even working. He calculated that the current $6.99 offer would require a 30% increase in traffic to each store in order for them to just break even. But none of the deals being offered this summer have driven up traffic by even 10% in most stores. The franchisees are losing money. Corporate headquarters has also issued instructions for the local stores to perform expensive renovations and upgrades as well, furthering the problems that they have. Now, this, by the way, isn't an absolutely unique problem in which whenever a franchise is purchased and opened, there are agreements that are made, and oftentimes it is a commitment to honoring any sort of promotion that the corporate says is going to be a promotion. Now, not always. It just depends. But this is apparently a pretty stark example to where you have a lot of those that are independently owned, smaller, the franchisees, that are saying, this is going to break us. We are going to fold. We cannot do this. We cannot honor this. Now, the reason that I bring this up is because this is reality versus what Kamala Harris wants you to believe, that corporate greed is at play here, and that corporate greed is the reason that prices are so high, that the reason that when you go to your local Subway and a something that was a $5 foot long, just 5, 6, 7 years ago, however far back, that the reason now you're paying $11 or $17 is because Subway conspired in order to rip you off, that the big corporate fat cats are taking advantage of you, and that she is going to put price controls in place, that if she is elected president, her plan is to tell Subway, for example, you cannot charge that much. But what we're seeing here is when the corporate headquarters, in an effort, they say, I'm sure it is, to drive more traffic in, hoping that that will bring more money in, are saying you need to bring prices down. Many of these locally owned franchises are saying we're going to buckle under here. We cannot afford this. Now, whoever's right and whoever's wrong, and it may depend on the independent and individual franchisees. The larger point here is the fact that these prices are high is not because of what Kamala Harris is telling you, because of corporate greed, because of local business owner greed. It is because this is what they have to charge in order to get by. And having somebody come in and say, this is going to be your price cap, is something that is potentially devastating and could be even deadly for, in this case, many of these subways. But what Kamala Harris wants to do is make that law of the land. Springfield's Talk 1041, I'm Nick Reed. All right, everyone. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow at Scramblers. Free breakfast for veterans, Warrior's Journey. Thank you to them for making it possible, along with Air Services, Heating, Cooling, Plumbing, Electrical, Delta Roofing, and Scramblers. Glenn Beck's next. I'm Nick Reed.